Hey guys, tonight, you're not a senator, not a merchant, not even free. You're not strolling through a marble atrium or sipping wine by candlelight. You're not writing poetry or dining with Cicero or debating at the forum. None of that. Tonight, you wake up on a floor, a cold one, stone, worn smooth by barefoot bodies before you. Your shoulder aches from sleeping curled, your wrists raw from rope, and your name. You haven't heard it in months. They don't use it anymore. Not because they've forgotten, but because it doesn't matter. You're not a person here. You're property, a tool with breath, a body with no voice. Your day hasn't started yet, but your punishment has. You hear the slap of sandals, the creak of wood, a sharp rap against the threshold. It's not a greeting, it's an order. Someone barks your number, or worse, doesn't bother at all. You rise too slow, too stiff. Your knee wobbles from yesterday's bucket run. Your palms burn, still blistered from scrubbing the mistress's floors. You stretch just a little and someone sees. Mistake, a boot connects with your back. Not hard, just enough. Just enough to remind you your body isn't yours. You were bought, sold, traded for 2 amphorae of olive oil and a mule. The contract's written in ink. But the ownership, you feel it in every bone. You wonder sometimes where your mother is, if she's still alive, if she thinks of you when she sees the full moon. But you don't ask, because no one here speaks your language, and even if they did, they wouldn't answer. You've seen too many like you, hands calloused, before they've known what softness means. Children forced to smile when the master's child plays too rough. Old men who walk with a limp and still carry jugs twice their weight. You don't complain. You don't pause. You don't dream. Not here. Because this place doesn't tolerate hope. Hope makes you hesitate. Hope gets people hurt. You're not free, and tonight you won't pretend to be. But here in this space, you get to witness, to remember, to feel gently the life of someone whose story was never written. Before we begin, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is there. Drop a comment. It's always heartwarming to see this quiet, sleepy little community stretch across the world. And if you enjoy these soft, strange descents into forgotten lives, consider liking or subscribing. It means more than you know. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan. Let the hum wrap around you. Let your body sink a little deeper into the mattress. No ropes, no stone floors. Just your breath. Safe, steady. Let's begin before your master does. Close your eyes. Picture Rome. The domes, the arches, the marble columns catching golden sunlight, the aqueducts, the paved roads, the wealth, the power. Now, strip all of that away. Take away the mansions, the politics, the public baths and the banquets, and ask yourself who built it, not just in theory, not in grand speeches or stone inscriptions, but brick by brick, callus by callus, blood by blood, slaves. Slaves built Rome, and not as a metaphor. They literally built it. By the peak of the empire, it's estimated that nearly 40% of Italy's population were enslaved, 4 out of every 10 people. In some households, slaves outnumbered free people 5 to 1. They weren't just the invisible hands behind labor. They were the cooks in the kitchens, the teachers in the children's rooms, the scribes who copied law, the artists who painted frescoes, the field workers who harvested wheat that fed armies, the carpenters who raised roofs, the masons who laid the very stones beneath your feet. In the heart of the empire, where senators debated and merchants counted coin, slaves lit the lamps, opened the doors, and swept the dust no one wanted to see. They ironed tunics. They stirred stews. They hauled amphorae of wine up 3 flights of stairs. They trimmed gardens they were not allowed to sit in. They filled scroll shelves with knowledge they were forbidden to read. There is no Rome, no glory, no grandeur, no gods cast in gold without slavery. From the luxurious villas in the hills of Campania to the dark, choking tunnels of the Spanish silver mines, you would find them. Digging, carrying, enduring, and in the cities, you'd hear them before you saw them. The slap of bare feet on tile, the rustle of linen as they knelt, the silence of obedience. Some were born into it. Some were captured in war, plucked from Gaul, Britannia, Thrace, Africa. Some were sold by debt. Others punished into servitude. They came with names, with stories, with languages, and lullabies of their own. But once inside the walls of Rome, they became tools, living, breathing, hurting tools. And yet they weren't faceless. They laughed when they could. They whispered dreams in the quiet moments before dawn. They formed bonds, dangerous ones. They found ways to survive even inside a system designed to break them. The empire never ran on coin alone. It ran on backs, on bodies, on breath, every stone stacked in the forum, every goblet poured at a feast, every note played on a lyre. Every victory march down the Via Appia was carried on the shoulders of those who could not march beside them. And when you look closely, when you squint past the statues and the myths and the Latin phrases carved in triumph, you'll see them. Not in the foreground, not on the pedestals, but in the shadows, holding it all up. Rome was never just marble and might. It was sweat. It was silence. It was survival. But you weren't born to serve. You were taken. You weren't born to be a slave. No one is, but here you are. And if you're wondering how you got here, you're not alone. Every person in chains once had a path that bent sideways. Some were born free and lost it. Others were never given the chance. Some were taken on battlefields, their cities burned, their homes raided. They were warriors once, or daughters of farmers, sons of hunters, midwives, musicians, teachers. They were dragged from Gaul, from Dacia, from Carthage, from Judea. One morning, they woke to the smell of smoke, the sound of steel. By sunset, they were shackled to a line of strangers, and Rome had won. Others were sold, not by soldiers, but by those they trusted. A desperate father trading one child to feed the others. A village elder offering up captives to spare the rest. Sometimes, even a sibling for debt. Then, there were the born ones, children of slaves, born not with a name but with a sentence. Their first breath wasn't freedom, it was ownership. Their lullabies were interrupted by shouting. Their toys, rocks, scraps. Spoons carved from bone. And in the markets, it's always the same, the ropes, the poles, the shouting, the touch of fingers pulling open your mouth to check your teeth. Someone tapping your ribs, lifting your tunic, inspecting like your livestock. Children tied together with hemp cord. Walking barefoot across the stone. A chalk sign hangs from your neck. Strong back can cook, speaks both Latin and Greek. You're worth more if you can do tricks, less if you limp. A man holds up 3 fingers. Another raises 5. A coin glints. Your life traded like bread in a stall. And when the deal is done, you are no longer yours. The name you gave them gone. The words you grew up with forbidden. Even the way you walk, the way you laugh, the way you sit, needs to change. Because now you belong to someone. And their name, their mood, their hunger, their whims. They decide what you are. Sometimes the worst part isn't being taken. It's forgetting how it felt to not belong to anyone. You used to hum songs while climbing trees. Now you whistle to show you're nearby. Not for joy, for obedience. You used to count stars. Now you count tasks. You used to have a future. Now you have tomorrow. And even that isn't promised. In Rome, they don't ask where you came from. Only what you can do. How much you weigh. How long before you break. And once you're owned, the law forgets you ever existed. You are here, breathing, bleeding, thinking. And yet, in the eyes of the law, you do not exist. You can lift stones. You can teach a child Latin. You can hold a torch in the tunnels of a mine for 12 hours straight. You can carry a tray across a marble floor without spilling a drop. But you cannot testify. You cannot marry. You cannot own. You cannot protect your own child, because you are not a person. You are property. In Roman law, slaves were known as res, a thing, an object, a possession. They called you a tool that talks, a shovel with thoughts, a cart with a pulse, a beast with language, but not with rights. If someone kills you, they're not charged with murder. They've damaged someone else's asset, like breaking a jug or burning down a shed. You are worth more alive, but you are not sacred, not protected, not irreplaceable. There are no courts for you, no trial, no voice. If your master is cruel, no one stops him. If he is kind, you live quietly, but never safely. Even in death, you are not honored. There's no funeral procession, no eulogy, no marble plaque. Maybe if you were loyal, he'll bury you near the stables, or toss your ashes in the Tiber with the kitchen scraps. No citizen will remember you, because the law never acknowledged you. You can love, but never officially. You can raise children only to watch them sold. You can build a house only to never own a room in it. Some masters give nicknames. Some let you sit near the fire. But none are required to, because kindness is not your right. It's their hobby. And if tomorrow they change their mind, there's no one to stop them from locking you in a cellar, or selling you to a quarry, or starving you as punishment for a rumor. You walk beside your master in the street, and people nod to him, never to you. You fetch his cloak, hold his child, polish his sandals, and to the world, you're no more than the shadow of his wealth. You live in between, visible, but invisible, present, but legally absent. A ghost that breathes, a body that aches, a soul that isn't counted. And yet Rome depended on you. Every day, every breath. Not all slaves were treated the same, but none were free. Some lived in the city, in the back rooms of wealthy homes, just steps away from fountains and frescoes. They wore tunics, served meals, tended fires, watched noble children draw letters in wax tablets. Sometimes they even corrected their grammar. If you were educated and lucky, you might be assigned to the library, or the kitchen, or the stables. You might be allowed to wear shoes, to speak Latin fluently, to read poetry but never write your own. And some were trusted enough to be stewards managing estates for masters too rich to bother. But trust never meant safety. One mistake, a broken plate, a wrong glance, a child crying in the night, and you could find yourself flogged, sold, or worse. Then there were the slaves of the countryside. Far from marble and music, they plowed fields under punishing sun, cut grapes until their fingers bled, slept in barns or in huts built from packed mud. There were no frescoes here, no poetry, only the rhythm of orders barked at dawn and backs bent by dusk. They ate little, worked much, and died younger. Worse still, the mines. Deep underground in narrow shafts choked with dust were the slaves of the state, the invisible engines of Rome's wealth. Iron, silver, gold. It came from bodies buried alive, from hands that swung pickaxes in the dark, from lungs that filled with rock dust until they coughed black. There was no sunlight, no seasons, no voices, just echoes. They say if a slave entered the mines, he rarely came out. And then, there were the fighters, the gladiators. Some were criminals, many were slaves. Some trained in schools, others thrown into arenas with no warning. They were fed, better trained, harder praised by crowds who cheered for their pain. They wore armor, but not by choice. They carried swords, but not for freedom. And when they died, Rome roared. A few earned fame, a handful earned freedom. Most earned nothing but scars and early graves. You might look at the city, slaves sweeping floors, pouring wine, and think better off than the man in the mine. And maybe, in some ways, yes. But they all shared the same silence, the same lack of name, the same absence of choice. Whether they slept under mosaics or under dirt, whether they taught geometry or dug for copper, they belonged to someone else. Their thoughts monitored, their rest earned by exhaustion, their joy suspicious, their pain routine. Some were allowed to love, some were not. Some had better food, some had none. Some dreamed of manumission. Most didn't dare. Because while the chains may have looked different, gold in the city, rusted iron in the mines, they all closed the same way, tight, final, unforgiving. Some dreamed of freedom. Most just dreamed of surviving tomorrow. There is a word they whisper when no overseer is near. A word passed from kitchen to garden, from bathhouse to barracks. Manumission, freedom. Not in theory, not like the abstract gods they pray to. But something real, tangible. A scroll, a seal, a ceremony. If your master wills it, if you serve long enough, if you obey well enough, if you are lucky enough, he might free you. Some are granted liberty in their master's will, a final gesture from a man already dead. Some earn it by saving coin for decades, buying themselves back, piece by piece. A body once priced in silver, now purchased with a lifetime of sweat. Others are freed for loyalty, for silence, for bearing children. You might even wear a cap, the pilea's symbol of freedom. White, rounded, soft. But freedom here isn't what you imagine, because even when you're free, you are never equal. You walk the streets still marked, still watched. They call you Libertas freedman, but never Roman. You owe your patron, your former master, undying loyalty. You cannot speak against him. You must vote the way he votes. Your children may inherit more privilege. You remain tolerated. Some are poor, worse than poor, cast out with nothing but a certificate and a cot. They sell fruit by the road, or become bodyguards, or beg. Others return to the same household not as slaves, but as servants. Paid, but not trusted. They say freedom is possible. They say it sweetly, like a fruit you'll one day taste, but only if you behave, only if you endure. And so, manumission becomes a leash, not a door. A promise that keeps you quiet, that keeps you competing with the others, that makes you hope just enough to forget the pain. And hope is dangerous here, because it teaches you to wait, to not rebel, to not speak, to not run, because maybe he'll free you, one day. If you don't complain, if you don't bleed too loudly, hope here is just another tool they use to keep you moving. So when someone speaks of freedom, you smile politely. You nod, but you don't believe it, not really. Because in this world, freedom isn't given. It's dangled, like a lantern just out of reach. But enough dreaming. The day is beginning, and it will be brutal. You don't wake up gently. There's no sunrise spilling across linen sheets, no birdsong, no soft stretch. You wake to pain. A sharp crack against the doorframe, wood on stone. A shout in Latin, too fast to catch, but you know the meaning up. You shift your body stiff and sore. The straw beneath you has turned damp overnight. It clings to your tunic, smells faintly of mildew and ash. Your blanket, if it could be called that, is nothing more than a fraying cloth, stiff with use and stained with months of sweat. Your back aches, not from injury but from repetition, from days spent bent hauling scrubbing, from nights curled too tight against cold that seeps into bone. The floor is stone, always has been, cold in winter, colder in memory. You try to shift quietly, but a wince escapes your lips. Your hands, they've cracked again. Tiny splits in the skin, red and raw along the creases of your knuckles. You flex your fingers, the joints pop. Pain flares a familiar greeting. You rise slowly, careful not to wake the others. Bodies are packed like kindling around you. Some younger, some older, all silent, all tired. Outside, the sky is still dark. Only a thin, blue line traces the rooftops. You feel it, that early breath of air, slipping through the cracks in the wall. Cool, but not refreshing. Just a reminder that morning has begun, and rest is over. You move toward the basin in the corner. The water is cloudy, left over from yesterday. You splash a little on your face. It stings. The salt from your skin, the dust from your pillow, the sleep you never really fell into, they mix and they burn. Someone behind you groans. Another coughs. A rat skitters along the far wall. You ignore it all, because your body is already preparing for lifting, for bending, for silence. You slip on your sandals. The leather is thin, cut from reused scraps. The strap bites the same spot on your heel it always does. You don't fix it. You don't have time. The door opens. Light spills in, soft but blinding. A shadow fills the frame. He doesn't speak, just waits. You lower your eyes. You walk. Another day. Another march into labor, into command, into invisibility. The fire's out, and breakfast isn't for you. It starts with a whistle. Not a song, not a melody, just 3 sharp notes, high, low, high, like a bird with teeth. That's the signal. You hear it from the other side of the house, and your heart moves faster than your feet, because if you don't appear before the last echo fades, he notices, and if he notices, you pay. So you run. Not loud, not clumsy. Quick steps, soft heels, no eye contact. Just the blur of sandals against stone. You arrive just as he turns. Not toward you, but toward a jug. He doesn't see your face. Doesn't need to. He points. You follow. He drops a cloak. You pick it up. He clicks his tongue, and you know that means fetch water. There are no greetings, no thank you, no please. Only tasks. You pass another slave on the stairs. Too slow. She gets a cuff to the back of the head. Her tray clatters. No one looks. Later, she'll bleed into her tunic, and still carry the same tray. Your master whistles again, shorter this time. You didn't move fast enough. He doesn't speak. He just reaches out, grabs the edge of your ear, pulls hard enough to make you flinch. Then a quick smack to the back of your skull. Not full force, not yet. Just enough to say, faster. You murmur something, not a word, more like air, and nod. He's already forgotten you again. Turning away, adjusting his belt, muttering about olives, or guests, or the late morning sun. You exist only in his need. You disappear in his silence. And it's not just him. The lady of the house snaps her fingers without looking up. Once her sandals tied tighter. Once the oil lamp moved 2 inches left. Once the dog fed before the baby. A child might command you, next 6 years old, sticky hands, learning how power feels by ordering you to bark like a wolf. You obey. Because disobedience has a sound, a weight, a bruise. Your spine remembers the beatings your mouth survived, and so you move. You clean. You serve. You learn how to anticipate before the whistle, how to step out of the way of elbows, how to smile without showing teeth. Because smiles are confusing. They might look like defiance. You're not here to be charming. You're here to function. Your name doesn't echo in these halls. Only footsteps, orders, and whistles. You don't speak. You don't eat. You work. You're in the courtyard before the sun clears the rooftops. Steam rises faintly from your breath. But the water is colder than bone. Your hands sink into the basin. Wool, linen, more wool. Stiff with sweat and last night's wine. You scrub with soap made from ash and animal fat. It smells like something that's rotted, then burned. It stings your palms. Every crack in your skin flares with pain. You don't pause. You can't. Because this is the easy part. You wring the fabric tight. Your knuckles whiten. Your wrists tremble. Blood seeps from a split on your thumb. You wipe it on your tunic. No one will notice. No one will care. Next the buckets. Wooden, warped, heavy. You carry them to the kitchen, each one sloshing against your legs. Each step, a reminder that your back is not your own. The kitchen is a furnace. Even in the early hours, the hearth was never cleaned last night. Old embers and wet logs make for thick, choking smoke. You stack fresh wood damp from rain. It hisses and spits as you strike the flint. You cough, eyes stinging. Tears run uninvited. You smell like olive oil. Not the rich kind. The spoiled kind, sticky thick, clinging to your hair like grease. You can't remember when it got there. But it's there now. It always is. A clay pot cracks from heat. You flinch. Look over your shoulder. No one saw. You hope. You stir the porridge. Not yours. Not even close. You taste nothing. But you know every smell, every texture, every pot, every pan, every scratch on the stone counter. Your hands remember what your stomach forgets. The mistress calls from the other room. Once her bath warmed, once her rings polished. You dip your hands once more into cold soapy water and feel the sting return. You don't wipe it away. You let it settle. You let it become part of you. Because pain, too, is routine. And just when your back starts to ache, the real work begins. The kitchen fills with smoke before the day is halfway gone. Not the fragrant kind, not incense, not meat. This is the sting of burning chaff. Of wet wood, of oil too old to use but not too old for slaves. You're hunched over a brazier roasting grain. It pops, sizzles, sends sparks across your arms. Your tunic already smells like scorched barley, your skin like soot. You stir with a wooden paddle that's been blackened at the tip edges, worn soft by years of the same motion. And always, always you stir clockwise. Because your last kitchen mate did it counterclockwise. And no one's seen her since. Next comes the flour. You grind grain between stones, round and round. The rhythm is steady, numbing. Your wrists scream, but no one listens. The millstone moans like it's alive. And maybe it is fed by your labor, by your hours, by the skin peeling from your fingers. The dough is stiff today, too dry. The kitchen steward notices scowls but says nothing. Yet. You knead with your whole body, forearms press, knees locked, back curved. A full body prayer. But not for forgiveness, just for something edible. You shape the loaves, score the tops, slide them into the oven with a long-handled peel. It's hotter than yesterday, too hot. Your eyes sting. Not just from smoke, but hunger. You haven't eaten. You won't not now. The scent of fresh bread wraps around your ribs like rope. Sweet, warm, cruel. Your stomach growls and someone hears. You don't know who, but it's enough to make you stand straighter. You tear a corner from a ruined crust, one burnt black. You hide it in your palm, small, hard, barely bread. You don't eat it yet, not in here. Too many eyes. Voices carry from the atrium. Your master and his guests talking politics, schemes, names of senators and generals and wives. You catch snatches of Latin you're not supposed to know. Land disputes. A marriage bargain. Something about a slave who disappeared. You keep your head low, your ears open, your mouth shut, because secrets drift into kitchens like steam, and sometimes steam burns. You press your knuckles into the dough one last time, not to shape it, but to keep them from shaking. You'll bake, you'll serve, you'll pretend you didn't hear, because bread feeds the body, but secrets, those can starve you faster. And you don't repeat what you hear, not if you want to keep your tongue. You kneel beside the basin, not in prayer but in obedience. The water is cloudy, yellowed, lukewarm. There's an oily sheen on the surface that never quite settles. Your master dips his foot in first. He doesn't look at you. He doesn't have to. The smell hits before your hands do sour, damp, a faint trace of vinegar, and something worse, fungus sweat, old leather. You grip his ankle gently, thumb against tendon, fingers beneath heel. His skin flakes, not from age but from neglect. Calluses cracked wide, toes yellowed, one nail blackened. You scrub it all. The cloth in your hand is thin, frayed, soaked in lye. It burns your knuckles, but you keep going. You work in slow circles, like you were taught. Too fast is disrespect, too slow is insolence. He sighs, not in pleasure, but in boredom. He clicks his tongue. You missed a spot, you bow your head lower. He presses down 2 fingers to your crown, guiding you closer until your nose nearly touches the water. You hold your breath, not out of fear but out of survival, because once a boy in the villa inhaled while scrubbing, coughed, reflex. A splash hit the master's robe. They shaved his head, tied him to the column, and left him out all night. You remember that, so you keep your breath short, controlled, silent. You lift the second foot. It's worse. Always is. You find a sore between the toes. You dab it clean. No reaction. No thank you. Just the sound of dripping. He leans back. Yawn. Stretch. The sound of his rings clinking against each other as he folds his hands. When he stands, he steps out onto your rag. Not a towel. Your cleaning cloth. You're expected to dry his soles with it, not to wash it after. Not yet. He leaves without looking down. Not a glance, not a nod, not a word. And when he walks away clean, you're still covered in filth. Some jobs are worse than others, and this one is the worst. You're sent to the latrine. Not a private one, a public toilet, used by dozens, sometimes hundreds. A long stone bench with holes lined up like a row of open mouths. The smell hits before you turn the corner. It clings to the walls, to the stone, to your throat. You breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. Flies swarm the corners, fat buzzing. Drunk on waste, you swat at them, but they don't care. They know this place better than you do. There are no gloves, no buckets of clean water, only a rag, a cracked clay bowl. A handful of ash. And your hands. You scoop, you wipe, you scrub. It gets under your nails, into the creases of your fingers, beneath the hem of your tunic. You can't stop to gag. There's no time. Some of the waste has sat overnight. The ammonia burns your eyes. You blink through the tears. You keep going. You reach behind the seat where someone missed or didn't care. You scrape dried feces off the wall with a piece of broken tile. A splash hits your arm. You don't react. You've learned not to. The tufa floor is slick. Your sandals slide as you kneel. You steady yourself with one palm on the stone and feel it warm. Too warm. You don't think about it. You don't look. You throw a handful of ash. It helps a little. Absorbs some of the wet. Covers the worst of the smell. But nothing ever removes it. Not truly. Not from the walls. Not from your skin. Not from your mind. You wipe down the sponge sticks. They hang in a row like limp, gray tongues. Used by citizen after citizen. Barely rinsed, never replaced. You clean each one. Because someone has to. Because you are someone. But not that kind of someone. You finish one stall. There are 4 more. Your stomach rolls from the stench, from the bile, from the knowledge that you'll be back here again tomorrow. The sun is rising now. People are starting to walk past the doorway. They wrinkle their noses. They laugh. They don't stop. They never do. You scrub until your stomach turns, and still it's not enough. Your master doesn't beat you himself. Not often. He has someone else for that. The overseer. He's not noble, not rich, not educated. But in this house, his word is law, second only to the master, and sometimes louder. He carries a cane, always. Not for walking, not for show, just for striking. Not always hard, but always fast. Wrist like a whip, aim practiced, quiet. You learn to read his footsteps, the scrape of leather, the creak of wood, the slight cough he gives when entering a room, not because he's ill, but because he wants you to know he's coming, to make you tense. Sometimes he doesn't hit. He just watches, and that's worse. His gaze is sharp, suspicious, hungry. You once saw him break a girl's fingers because she dropped a jar. It wasn't valuable. He didn't care. She was crying before it hit the floor. Another time he caught a boy glancing toward the door, just glancing. One swing, back of the head, no warning. He disciplines with more than just the cane. Rope, salt, darkness. There's a room beneath the stairs, no light, no bedding, no sound. He locks people in for hours, days. You don't know. No one talks about it. You know someone's in there when you hear breathing where breathing shouldn't be. Sometimes he speaks softly before he strikes. Tells you why. Tells you it's your fault. Tells you you'll learn. Sometimes he doesn't speak at all. He's a slave too once, or maybe still is. No one knows. But power makes people forget their own chains. He walks like a man who's never been hit. He hits like he wants you to forget he ever was. You've never met his eyes. Not really, because a glance, even a brief one, can be mistaken for defiance. And defiance is blood. The first time he hit you, it was for stepping too close. The second for not stepping close enough. Now you move just right, not out of instinct, but calculation. Your back flinches before your mind catches up. The cane becomes part of your world, like gravity, like weather, a thing that simply exists. You don't cry anymore. You don't curse. You just tighten and wait. Because pain is faster than breath and softer than fear. The sound of wood on skin becomes normal. It starts with a whisper, not a plan, not a speech. Just a breath, barely louder than the crackling firewood. He knows a way out. You don't look up. You keep scrubbing. Your hands in the basin. Your eyes on the floor. You don't ask who. You don't ask how. You never do. Because asking is the first step toward joining, and joining is the first step toward disappearing. They talk low behind the stables, behind the kitchen, sometimes when cleaning after dark. Some say there's a path through the orchard, a gap in the wall, near the olive press. Others whisper of disguises, forged seals, of slipping onto a cart headed toward the coast. It sounds like a story, a beautiful one, told not for truth, but for endurance. But then someone's gone, not dead, not sold, just gone. Their cot remains empty, their shoes still under the bench, their bucket unwashed. No one says a word. You want to believe they made it, that they reached the hills, found kindness, saw the sea. But then a week later, someone else disappears. And this time, they come back. Or, part of them does. You see him in the courtyard, shaved head, sunken cheeks, a fresh brand on his forehead, the letter F fugitivus, runaway. The scar is black and raised, still glistening. His eyes stay low. He limps. You notice the missing toe. Just one, removed clean. A message etched in flesh. He's placed back on kitchen duty. No one mocks him. No one pities him. Everyone sees. That night, no one whispers. The rebellion, if it was ever real, melts into the ash. The fear lingers longer. You see it in the way hands tremble around cups, in the way backs stiffen when footsteps approach, in the way no one, not even the bold ones, looks at the gate anymore. There's no mourning, no talk of justice, no one day will be free, just silence. Because in this place, hope is a kind of betrayal. To dream is to endanger. And when someone fails to escape, a little part of everyone else gets punished too, even if it's just the reminder. So you stop listening. You stop guessing. You let your thoughts shrink to the size of your chores. Because survival isn't about escape. Not here. Not anymore. But you keep your head down. You survive. The sun doesn't ask permission. It just rises higher and hotter until the courtyard glows like iron in a forge. Your tunic sticks to your back, salt crusts along your collar. The stone under your feet is too hot for bare skin, but your sandals are worn thin. You feel every burn through the soles. There is no shade, not for you. You squint, not toward the sky that's forbidden, Eyes up is arrogance. Eyes down is safe. Your master waves a hand lazily from the veranda. He wants something. He never says what. You run to the storeroom, back to the garden, back again. You carry a stool, a bowl, a fan. You guess. Sometimes you guess right. He doesn't nod, just gestures again. You wipe the dust from his sandals. You refill his wine cup. He spills it on purpose, maybe. He frowns like you've offended him. You didn't, but it doesn't matter, because in this heat, logic melts. You mop the flagstones again, even though they'll be dusty by dusk. You sweep petals from the garden even as more fall. You chase the dog from the table leg. You refill the basin with cooler water, though it will warm again in minutes. Your arms ache, your throat is dry, but you don't drink. Not unless someone offers, and no one offers. You steal a glance at the sky, it blazes. Your lips crack when you exhale. Another order, another errand, another glare from the steward for stepping 2 feet too slow. If you're lucky, you're ignored. If not, you're insulted. Or blamed. Once, you did everything right. Still got cuffed. Now you do everything right and try to disappear. But disappearing takes energy. And by midday, you have none left. You pass a tray to another slave, older, slower, sweat soaking through his tunic. He gives you a look. Not pity, not solidarity, just resignation. There's a rhythm to the cruelty. You learn to move to it, like a dance. Silent, breathless, unrewarded. The mistress complains about the heat. You nod. She sends you for lavender water. You run. You wipe her seat before she sits. You step back. She says nothing. The dog whines. Someone blames you. You bow. It wasn't you. Still you bow. You think of water. Just a sip. But you don't ask. And lunch, that's for others. You eat if there are scraps. The dog eats first. Not before the master, but before you. Always before you. It's a sleek creature. Glossy coat. Imported breed, they say, from Gaul or Greece or somewhere that sounds expensive. It has a name. You don't. It sleeps on a cushion, stuffed with wool. You fluffed it this morning, shook off the dust, laid it near the brazier just right so it stays warm through the night. Your bed is straw. Damp some days. Cold most nights. Shared with insects and silence. The dog's bowl is polished. Brass. Your bowl is a reused pot chipped at the rim. Today you serve it lamb stew. Real lamb. With broth thickened by barley, flavored with garlic and herbs. You cooked it, stirred it, tasted none of it. You place the bowl down gently. Wait. The dog sniffs, takes its time, finally eats. The master watches from his seat, smiles. Good boy. You say nothing. You kneel to refill the water bowl. Cool, fresh, better than what you drank last week. The dog finishes, licks your hand, a sign of affection. Your master laughs. Even he likes you. You force a smile. You do not speak. The dog curls onto the cushion, burps softly. Its belly round, clean, satisfied. You wipe its muzzle with linen. The same fabric you once saw sewn into a senator's toga. Not for you, of course. You clean the floor around the bowl. Then clean your own hands, not because anyone told you to, but because the stew clings to your fingers and reminds you that you were close to something good, but never allowed to taste it. The dog is praised for a trick, a bark on command, a roll on its side. You spent all day carrying, scrubbing, bending, bleeding, and not once heard your name. The dog yawns. You stand. Your knees pop. You wonder how many animals eat better than you. You stop counting after the pigeons. Because this is the order of things. Even the pet has a place. Even the pet gets love, gets protection, gets warmth. And you're not even man's best friend. You're his possession. You're sent ahead of dawn, before the citizens arrive, before the steam rises, to start the fire. The furnace room is low and black-walled, thick with the smell of old charcoal and wet ash. You crouch beside the pile of wood-strike flint against stone, again and again, until the spark catches. The flame roars to life, hungry, hot. You feed it, carefully damp, logs, dry twigs, crushed olive pits from the kitchen. It needs to stay alive all morning. And so do you. Above you, stone basins wait to be warmed. Cracked from age, heavy with yesterday's water. Steam curls upward from the cracks, mixing with the smoke. It stings your eyes, fills your lungs, settles into your tunic, your hair, your skin. You smell like soot before the first bather even arrives. Then the noise begins. Sandals on tile, voices echoing off marble, Laughter, splashing. Roman citizens come here to relax, to gossip, to be scrubbed, oiled, pampered. You're not there to relax. You are there to keep things moving, to keep the heat just right, to refill the oils, to clean what they leave behind. The floors are always wet, always slippery, and it's your job to wipe them over and over as feet walk through again. You scrub hair from the drains, not just from heads, but from backs, chests, armpits. You scrape away dead skin, sometimes blood. Women leave stains monthly, silent on benches they never clean. You do. You don't flinch. You don't gag. You've learned. They drop towels without looking. You fold them again. They snap their fingers for hotter water. You run. You sweat through your tunic, then sweat more. It clings like second skin. You're soaked before midday. Once you slipped, fell hard. Your palm hit the furnace door. Searing, blistering. You bit your lip so hard it bled, but didn't scream. Didn't cry. No one helped. No one even turned. The burn took weeks to heal. And when it did, you could still feel it deep in the tendons. Every time you carried a pail. But the bathers kept coming. The water kept steaming. The whispers and laughter and splashing never stopped. And you kept working. You still are. You smell like ash. You hurt like hell. But your shift isn't over. He's only 10. Soft-cheeked, bright-eyed, with sandals newer than your hands have ever touched. The master's son. He doesn't say please. He doesn't say thank you. He just points, snaps, tugs. And because he is the heir, you obey. At first, it's harmless. He asks you to march like a soldier, to make faces, to fall down and pretend to die when he flicks his fingers. You do it all, with as much grace as a broken back allows. He claps, he laughs. Then it escalates. Be a horse, he says. You drop to your hands and knees. He climbs on your back. Too fast, too rough. He pulls your ear like a rein. You grunt not from pain, from effort. He calls you slow, stupid. He kicks. You keep moving. Your knees scrape the tile. It leaves a trail of dark smudges, dust, sweat, and the first trace of blood. He wants more. He grabs a stick. Now whip yourself, he says. At first, you don't move. He frowns. He yells. Then his mother calls from the other room. Is everything all right, darling? He smiles again. You pick up the stick. Lightly tap your leg. He scowls. Harder. You hit yourself harder. Not enough. He hits you himself. Laughs. You flinch, not from pain, but from the sound. And then the game goes wrong. He throws something, a carved wooden ball. It hits your temple. You fall sideways. Your lip splits on the floor. Blood. He gasps, not out of guilt, but fear. His bottom lip trembles. He wails. Footsteps rush in. The mistress appears. She sees you bleeding. Her son crying. She doesn't ask what happened. She kneels beside him, strokes his curls. Oh, poor love. What did the slave do? You stay silent, even with the blood in your mouth. Later you're summoned. The master is angry, not shouting, just cold. He says you frightened his son. He says you upset the household. You're struck. Once. Twice. No injury, just bruises that will yellow by next week. No one dresses your lip. No one mentions the stick. Or the commands. Just a quiet reminder, don't make the boy sad again. Afterward, the child smiles at you in the corridor. Like nothing happened. Like you're still part of the game. And maybe you are. Because here children play. Slaves pay. You're not a guest. You're not even a servant in the room. You're under it. Curled like an animal beneath the banquet table, knees folded tight, jug of wine balanced between your thighs, waiting. They know you're there. That's the point. You're not allowed to move, not to cough, not to shift, not to breathe too loud. The tablecloth brushes your forehead. Above it, silk sleeves, jeweled rings, silver cups. Below, crumbs rain down like soft dust. A piece of fig skin sticks to your shoulder. Someone's sandal pins your tunic to the floor. You don't flinch. You wait for the tap, the signal. 2 quick raps on the table leg. Then you slide out silent and fluid. Refill the cup, bow your head, slide back under all in one breath. Once you bumped a plate. It rattled. A man looked down, not angry, amused. He fed you a scrap of cheese from his fingers. Then flicked your nose like a joke. Everyone laughed. You didn't. Because you're not supposed to. You listen. Of course you do. They speak freely, thinking you deaf, or indifferent, or disposable. You hear the governor brag about a mistress in Syracuse. The merchant hint at a bribe for military grain. You hear names, dates, plans. You hold them in your mouth like stones. You never speak of them, not even to yourself. There was another once a boy, not much older than you, who snorted at a joke about a senator's wife. Not loudly, just a breath-half laugh. He was gone the next morning. No one said why, but the stain on the wall behind the stables stayed for weeks. Now, no one laughs under the table. No one blinks. A dog crawls under sometimes, allowed, welcomed. It sniffs your foot. You stay still, you wait, you pour, you vanish. The party above you roars on wine, spilling meat, torn gossip rolling like thunderclouds. Below you are dust. You are breath. You are part of the furniture. No one thanks you. No one sees you unless you mess up. So you stay invisible, small, forgettable. Because here silence is safety, even when the jokes are cruel. It was past midnight. The fires had burned low. The house was quiet, that dangerous kind of quiet, the one that comes after wine, after laughter, after the master stops pretending to be civil. You were curled on your mat in the kitchen corner, arms around your knees, half asleep. Then the door creaked. Not loud, just enough. You saw her first barefoot eyes wide, then him, the master, drunk, sweating through his tunic, his hand on her wrist. She didn't scream then, not yet. He said her name not kindly, not sharply, just carelessly. Then they were gone. Down the corridor toward the storage room, or maybe his own chambers. You lay there, still, frozen, breath held like a thief, clutching stolen silver. Then came the sound. Not a shout, not a wail. A scream, muffled, swallowed. The kind that comes with a hand over the mouth. A body held down. You heard her struggle. Heard something crash, something thud. A gasp that ended too fast. And then silence. The kind that sticks in your chest, like soot. You didn't sleep after that. You stared at the ceiling until it turned gray, until the kitchen stirred, until the house began again like nothing had happened. At dawn she was there, in the kitchen, washing bowls. Her hair was tied back. Her lip was swollen. Her sleeves rolled up past bruises that hadn't bloomed fully yet. She didn't look at anyone. No one looked at her, not directly. The steward barked for more bread. She moved without a word. She moved like a shadow of herself, like her body still belonged to someone else. No one said a thing, because to speak is to acknowledge, and to acknowledge is to risk. You watched her ladle soup into a bowl, hand trembling just slightly. You met her eyes, just for a moment. She turned away, not in shame, not in anger, in something harder to name. Survival, maybe. Not pride, not fear, just the dull weight of someone still here when they shouldn't be. She didn't cry, she didn't ask for help, she didn't leave. She worked, because that's all she could do. And everyone let her, because that's all they could do. Later, someone dropped a plate. She flinched, only for a second, but you saw it. You saw the girl who screamed, "Go quiet." You saw her rebuild the silence around herself like armor. You don't ask what happened. You never ask. The tunic is still damp, still warm. It smells like sweat leather and iron, and something sharper. Blood. Not your own. Not this time. You don't ask where it came from. A beating, a punishment. A game gone too far. It doesn't matter. Not to you. You lower it into the basin. The water clouds instantly pink, then gray. You add ash, not soap too precious, just crushed charcoal from the hearth, the old kind, soft enough to smear, coarse enough to sting. You stir the cloth with a stick. The blood clings. So you take it out, lay it flat on the stone slab, pick up the mallet, and strike. Not to punish, to clean. You beat the fabric not too hard, not too soft, just enough to bruise it without tearing it. Because a tear means punishment. A thread out of place means less food, maybe no food. So you hit it gently, violently. Your hands ache, not just from the effort but from the cold. The water bites, your knuckles crack again, one splits wide. Blood joins the basin. Now it's yours too. You rub the stain with a rag wool rough, sour smelling. You grind ash into the fibers press with your thumb until the skin peels. You wring it out, twist harder. Your nails catch, one lifts slightly. You gasp, but only in your head. Someone passes behind you. You nod. They don't nod back. The tunic is clean, or close enough. You drape it over the rope line beside others. White off-white, yellowing in corners. Wind lifts the hem. You step back, and wait. Because drying takes time. But more importantly, inspection comes next. The steward will run 2 fingers along the fabric, hold it to the light, smell it maybe. And if he finds a stain, you go hungry. You've gone hungry before, for less. Sometimes you wonder if the stains ever come out. Not really. Even when the cloth looks white, you see it, the shape, the memory, like ghosts in linen. And tomorrow, you'll scrub again, because stains return. The house is quiet, but you don't sleep. Not really. You kneel beside her bed, the mistress, wrapped in fine linen, dreaming maybe, breathing uneven. Your task is simple. Make her rest easy. You fan her with a woven palm leaf. Gentle arcs, slow and steady. Not too fast, wind startles. Not too slow, heat disturbs. Her feet twitch. She shifts. You stop fanning. Lean forward. Lift one foot into your lap and begin to rub. Softly. Thumb along the arch. Palm over the heel. You know which joints ache in the rain, which toes she broke as a girl. You press gently. You've learned how. Her breath evens. You pause. Listen. Wait. Silence. You sit back on your heels. Blink slowly. But you don't lie down. Not here. Not now. Because the candle needs watching. Too dim and she wakes cold. Too bright and she scolds. You trim the wick. You adjust the oil. Still silence. A cough. You rise immediately. She doesn't open her eyes, but you know she's not asleep anymore. You place the fan in her hand. She drops it. You pick it up again. She murmurs something. A name that's not yours. You whisper, "Yes, Domina." You don't know what she meant. You say it anyway. She rolls over, sighs, drifts again. You remain alert. Your knees throb. Your spine aches from stillness. The candle flickers. Another hour passes. Maybe 2. Then she twitches. Her breath catches. She gasps, then wakes. Eyes wide. Chest heaving. A nightmare. You reach for her cup. Offer water. She slaps it away. Her hand catches your cheek. Not hard. Not gentle. You let it in, she mutters. The dream. You bow your head. Say nothing. Because in her world, bad dreams are your fault. Your presence, your touch, your breath invited shadows. She turns away. Pulls the blanket tighter. Closes her eyes again. You clean the spilled water from the floor. Pick up the cup. Relight the lamp. You whisper a prayer. Not for her, but for time to pass faster. You rest with one eye open. If you rest at all, the fire's out. The house has gone still. But you're still awake. You lie on your side on a pile of straw that was damp even before the rain. It smells of mold, of old sweat, of something sour. You've learned not to breathe too deeply. There's no pillow, just your arm, and even that aches too much to offer comfort. You hear scratching in the corner, a rat, maybe 2. You don't flinch. They don't care about you. They're just passing through. Beside you, a younger boy, 8, maybe 9, curls into your side. He mumbles in his sleep, whimpers. You don't wake him. He needs what little rest he can steal. But you hear it, the soft sniff of someone dreaming through tears. Not sobbing, not loud, just leaking. You stare at the ceiling. Nothing to see, just darkness. But in your mind, a flicker of something else. A kitchen, back home, a clay cup, the smell of honey water, a voice humming, your mother's hand combing straw from your hair. You let the memory stay, just long enough to feel warmth in your chest. Not heat, but longing. And then footsteps, not hurried, not loud. Just measured, deliberate. You tense. Everyone does. A cough gets stifled. A sleeping body straightens slightly. You close your eyes, but not fully. You've seen what happens when they check. Who's missing? Who's talking? Who's not here when they should be? The overseer walks past the door. You hear his cane tap the wall once. Not a punishment, just a reminder, I'm still here. Then silence, except for the snoring from the room next door. One of the senior servants. He sleeps deeply, because he's allowed to. You count breaths. 1, 2, 10. Still awake, you shift your leg. Straw pokes your thigh. You try not to move too much. Motion makes noise. Noise invites attention. The boy beside you turns again. Whispers a name in his sleep. It's not yours. You close your eyes tighter. But nothing comes. Because here sleep is not a right. It's not even rest. It's survival. It's borrowed and easily stolen. You are tired so deeply, achingly tired. But your body is trained. To stay ready. To stay alert. To wake at the creak of a door. You've slept before, but never safely. Never fully. Not since the day you were taken. It's dark, it's quiet, but your mind won't let go. You noticed he was gone at dawn, his mat still warm, his sandals missing. No one spoke, but everyone knew. He was fast, careful, smart. He waited for a storm, crept out during thunder. Over the back wall, maybe, or under the grain cart. No one would say. You didn't smile, you didn't hope. You just kept working. Because hope is dangerous. And smiling makes people ask questions. The day passed slowly, the sky cleared, the courtyard dried, and then he came back, dragged by 2 guards, barefoot, bleeding, face down in the dirt. He wasn't crying, not anymore. His back was striped raw, his arm bent the wrong way, his tunic was gone, his breath shallow. You saw them bring out the iron, a thin rod glowing red at the tip. You knew what it meant. They branded him just above the eyes. F fugitivus, runaway. He screamed once, just once. Then he passed out. The overseer kicked his side. He didn't move. You were handed a rag, told to clean the steps. There was blood, a lot. It soaked into the stone, into the cracks. You scrubbed until your hands shook, not from the effort, from holding in everything else. You weren't allowed to say his name anymore. The steward made that clear. Speak it, and you'll join him. So you don't. But you remember. You remember the way he used to hum when he worked. The way he tore his bread in half if you looked hungry. The way he looked at the gate like he saw something beyond it. Now he doesn't look at anything. They kept him in the cellar after that. You passed the door once, heard a cough, then nothing. Later, they said he'd been reassigned. Mines maybe, or the quarry. But no one believes that. Someone cleaned his mat away that night, shook out the straw, swept the corner. And now there's a new spot open, in your row. It's Saturnalia. The city pulses with noise, laughter, drums. Flutes echo down the alleys like birds let loose from cages. Even the air smells different, spiced smoky sweet with roasted chestnuts and dripping pork fat. The masters wear simple tunics today. They play at being humble. They hand out coins, crack jokes with their slaves, toast with too much wine. It's a role reversal, they say. A day when chains loosen, if only a little. Some slaves dine with their masters, sit at the same table, drink from the same jug. Some are even given gifts, candles, scarves, old sandals passed off as generosity. But not you. You're in the kitchen, still stirring, still scraping, still sweating. Someone had to stay behind, they said. Someone had to guard the house, watch the stew, clean the pots. So you volunteered no. You were chosen. The other slaves laughed on their way out, wearing borrowed cloaks and paper hats. One winked at you, half apologetic, half relieved. Now it's just you and the smell of meat you won't taste. You baste the roast until it glistens. You cut fruit into perfect slices, line them like jewels across a bronze plate. The mistress left you a list, long, detailed. She said she'd forgive one mistake, but not 2. You hum softly to fill the silence. A tune your mother used to sing during festivals, back when celebration meant food, not labor. Back when you were a child, not a tool. You pause by the window, hear the crowd cheering near the forum. Someone's dancing. A lyre plays a song you almost remember. You close your eyes for a second, just one. Then the pot boils over. Steam hisses. You curse under your breath, grab the cloth, burn your thumb. Back to work. You wipe the counter, sweep the floor, set the plates. By the time the others return, drunk, smiling, smelling like perfume and fire, you've already cleared their dishes. One of them tosses you a fig, partly eaten. You take it, because tonight, that's your gift. You lie down later, the straw poking your spine, still smelling of lamb, still hearing music in the distance. A city celebrating. But not you. Freedom is always elsewhere, just out of reach. It's nearly night. The house is still. The wine has been poured, the embers are low, and the master's voice has finally gone quiet. You're told to take the waste out, or maybe fetch more water. It doesn't matter. What matters is you're allowed to step outside, just for 5 minutes. You carry the bucket through the back gate. The door creaks. No one notices. No one cares. And then you see it. The sky. Not through a window. Not reflected in a bucket. Not hidden by rooftops or smoke. Just sky. Open, endless. Tired and purple like a bruise slowly healing across the heavens. A few stars blink above the city's breath. Soft and certain. Not many Rome glows too bright for that, but enough to make you pause. You take one step out of shadow. Just one. The stone is cool beneath your feet. The air brushes your cheek. A breeze, real, moving, alive. It smells like dust, like olives, like night. You close your eyes. You inhale. And for one small second, you're not a slave. You're not a name forgotten. You're not a tool. You're just a person. Outside. Under a sky. You tilt your face up. Not to pray, but something close. You don't know the words. You whisper anyway, not loud enough for the gods, just enough for yourself. Behind you, a door creaks. You flinch. A reminder even freedom must fit between orders. You pour out the waste. You refill the jug. You don't look back up. You've had your moment. You step inside. The light disappears. The sky vanishes. The walls return. That's all. That's your day. Tomorrow repeats, unless it ends. He falls just before midday, in the courtyard, in full sun. One moment he's hauling a basket of bricks, arms, trembling breath short, and the next he drops. Not slowly, not gracefully. Just down, like a tool worn through. The basket tips. Bricks clatter against the stone. The sound echoes, sharp, wrong. You freeze, so does everyone, just for a breath. Then the overseer shouts, not in alarm, in anger, move him. Two others run over, not to help, but to obey. They lift him by the arms. His legs drag behind. His sandals slip off. He doesn't speak, doesn't fight. He might still be breathing. You can't tell. No one calls his name. No one offers water. No one asks what happened. He's carried away like a sack of grain, heavy, useless, disposable. The dust where he fell is darkened, a smear of red where his head hit the stone. Maybe he bit his tongue. Maybe something inside gave out. You don't know? You don't ask. You're told to clean it. You fetch a rag, a bucket, kneel down. You wipe where you lay. The blood lifts slowly, thick, drying fast in the heat. You scrub harder, ash into water, rag into stone. It doesn't all come out, not fully, but you know how to make it look like it did. Someone walks past behind you, kicks a pebble, whistles a tune. The day goes on. No one speaks of him, not at lunch, not at dusk. His mat is empty that night, folded, gone by morning. Someone else sleeps there now. You never learn his name, not fully, just a whisper once, Marcus, or maybe Manius. It doesn't matter. He's gone, and you're still here. So you go back to work. And you have to learn not to look too long, or care too loudly. You wake before the sun, not because you want to, but because pain wakes first. Your leg throbs, a deep, pulsing ache behind the knee where the cane struck twice. Maybe 3 times. You stopped counting. Your back is tight, skin stretched over bruises. Some fresh, some fading, all tender. You move slowly, quietly. Your breath hitches when you stand, but you stand. Because the kitchen still needs fire. The courtyard still needs sweeping, and no one is going to do your part. You limp, you hide it. A full limp gets noticed. And noticed things get replaced. At the basin you splash cold water on your face. It stings. Your lip is cracked. A cut reopened from sleep. You chew nothing for breakfast. Because there is nothing. Not today. The mistress walks past you in the hall. She sees the mark on your temple. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't speak. She steps over the trail of flour you spilled, the one you can't bend fast enough to clean. The steward sees you dragging the basket slower than usual. Faster, he says. Not cruelly. Just bored. You nod. You say nothing about your ribs, about the blood that dried on the inside of your tunic, about how it hurts to lift a jug. You keep lifting. Because the beating wasn't for today. It was for yesterday when you dropped the amphora. Slipped maybe, or tripped, or were shoved. It cracked loud against the floor. The wine bled fast. Everyone turned. No one helped. Just silence, then the overseer's shadow. You remember the first strike. The second, not the third. Today your hands shake while stirring the pot. You grip tighter. You sweep more slowly, but with more focus. Because a mistake now would mean another round. No one asks if you're hurt. No one whispers in pity. The younger ones avert their eyes. The older ones don't look at all. Because they've been here. Because they will be again. You tuck the rag tighter around your waist. Hide the stain blooming near your thigh. And work. Because pain becomes part of your rhythm. Like breath. Like hunger. It doesn't stop you. It moves with you. She sends for you before her bath. The silver tray waits. The oils gleam in the morning light. You kneel beside the marble counter, barely breathing. Lavender petals dried just right. You crush them gently with a pestle, not too fast, or the scent turns sour. Next almond oil, rich golden, pressed by hand, you pour it slow, watching it catch the light like liquid sun. Then amber resin, crumbled sharp sweet. Hard to find, harder to afford. You add it last and stir. The perfume rises in waves, soft, velvety. A dream of someone else's life. It's intoxicating. You lean forward, just slightly, inhaling. Not enough to be noticed, just enough to remember. This scent won't linger on you. It isn't allowed to. But for now, it's in the air. And you're in it. You pour the mixture into a small glass vial. Delicate, clear. Imported from Alexandria, the mistress once said. You weren't supposed to hear that, but you did. You wipe the rim with a strip of linen. Hold the bottle upright. Steady hands, no mistakes. Then it happens. One drop, tiny, amber gold. Slips from the lip of the vial and lands on the back of your hand. It glows like stolen sunlight. You don't wipe it off, you just stare. For one breath. Then her voice cuts through the room. What are you doing? You snap your head up. She's at the doorway now, arms crossed, barefoot, frowning. That's expensive, she says, as if you've drunk it, as if your skin somehow dirties it. You bow. Mumble an apology. Hold out the vial. She takes it without another word, sniffs, approves, then leaves. You wipe the back of your hand against your tunic. Not roughly, not quickly, just enough to erase the evidence. The scent stays for a moment, then fades. You return the tools, wash the bowl, scrub the pestle. The perfume is gone. She wears it now on her wrists behind her ears. You pass her in the hall later. She smells like wealth, like the inside of temples, like a world you'll never step into. Luxury surrounds you and never touches you. You weren't taught to read. No one gave you a wax tablet or a stylus or permission. But you listen. You watch. The master's son recites Greek in the garden. His tutor speaks slowly, clearly, like someone sure he's being heard. You carry a tray past the hedge. Pretend you're focused on the figs. But your ears catch the rhythm. Anthropos, logos, Sophia, man, word, wisdom. You whisper them under your breath later, while scrubbing the stairs. You say them again while washing your feet. The words stay, even when everything else disappears. At night in the kitchen, you stare at the markings on the wall, chalk notes from the steward names scratched into wood. You trace the shapes with your finger. You match the sounds to the symbols. You guess. You remember. One day, the steward leaves a list. You read it, silently, accurately. You fetch the items without waiting to be told. He notices. His eyes narrow. How did you? You say nothing. Later he catches you looking at the boy's lesson scroll. Not touching, just looking. His voice is sharp, louder than it needs to be. Slaves don't need to read. You bow, you say nothing. You don't nod, that might be defiance. That night, the scroll is gone, locked away. The next day, the boy stumbles over his words. The tutor sighs. You mouth the answers under your breath. You scrub the floor in rhythm with conjugations, verbs and verbs and verbs. To be, to have, to suffer. You never write, you never dare, but you remember. And remembering feels dangerous. Because reading is not a task, not a chore, not even a skill. It's power. It's seeing what others think you can't. It's unlocking orders, overhearing thoughts, catching lies, learning laws. It's a door. And you're not supposed to know there's even a handle. One girl was caught writing her name. They burned the wood, then beat her hands. She couldn't carry trays for weeks. No one helped her. No one dared. So you read only in your mind, in silence, in secret. Because knowledge is freedom, and freedom is forbidden. You didn't plan to become friends. Slaves aren't supposed to. It makes things harder. But some faces become familiar. Some voices carry comfort. Some silences feel less heavy when shared. He was from Gaul like you. Same accent, same clumsy Latin. Same ache in the wrists after scrubbing too long. You met in the kitchens, over a sack of flour that ripped open mid-carry. Both of you blamed, both beaten, both bled and then laughed about it later in the dark where no one could hear. He called you brother. You didn't correct him. You split crusts of bread, whispered memories of cold rivers and forest paths. Shared one blanket in winter when the wind cut through the stone walls. When the steward shouted, he flinched for you. When you cried once, just once, he didn't speak. He just sat beside you until the tears dried. And then one morning, he was gone. No warning, no goodbyes. You woke to find his blanket folded, his sandals missing, his mat empty. Someone said he was sold. To a merchant's house maybe, or a mine. You nodded, didn't ask, didn't cry, because no one wants to see tears, not from a slave, not for another slave. You went back to the kitchen, the same shelf, the same rag, the same bowl you used to pass to him without a word. You worked slower that day, not enough to be punished, just a little. You watched the door, you listened, but no one came back. That night, you lay alone, the blanket too big now, the silence too wide. The others didn't ask, because they knew, because it happens, one by one, quietly, taken, moved, gone. You stir the soup, scrub the dishes, bend where he used to bend, breathe where he used to laugh, and the emptiness swells. Not loud, just steady. You don't say his name. It's safer that way. You don't ask where they go. You just work. The garden is perfect. Stone paths swept clean each morning. Terracotta pots lined in symmetry. Lavender, rosemary, myrtle, arranged not by nature, but by expectation. And you keep it that way. You rise before the sun to water the roots before heat settles in. You trim each bush, not too much, not too little. Every leaf is watched. Every vine trained to climb just so. The mistress walks here after her baths. She praises the fragrance, the order, the way the olive branches cast lace-like shadows on her silk. You say nothing. She doesn't know the olive was yours, not yours truly, but planted by your hand. You found the pit 3 years ago, buried it near the back wall, half as a joke, half as hope. You tended it quietly, spoke to it when no one was near, shielded it during frost, carried buckets farther than you had to just to give it a little more water. Now it's taller than you, its leaves silver green, fluttering with every breeze, and it bears fruit, small, black, perfect. You don't pick them. You wouldn't dare. The steward notices the olives, nods with approval, makes a note to include them in next week's table. You nod too. Say nothing. You sweep the fallen petals from the stone bench. You're not allowed to sit there. Even when the sun scorches your shoulders and your legs tremble after kneeling too long, you clip the roses with care. Even when their thorns draw blood, even when the scent drives you dizzy with longing, you crush no flowers, step on no roots. You are more careful here than anywhere else. Because beauty is fragile, and you are not allowed to break fragile things. Sometimes a bee lands on your hand. You let it rest. It flies off. You don't swat, don't speak. This is the only place in the villa where the pain feels softer, where your hands do not scrub, or carry, or bleed, only tend. But still, you do not belong here. You do not own the shade. You do not drink the water from the fountain. You do not rest on the bench beneath your tree. Beauty exists, but not for you. You're summoned without warning, pulled from your task halfway through, washing the floor soap still clinging to your wrists. The courtyard is bright, too bright. The chair waits in the center, plain, wooden, not meant for comfort, the steward points. You sit. Another slave stands behind you, razor in hand, not cruel, not gentle, just following orders. He starts with the crown. No ceremony, no care. Hair falls fast. Dark clumps hit your shoulders, then the stone. You want to close your eyes, but the master is watching. So you stare ahead, blank. Still, the breeze cools your scalp as more is taken. The back, the sides, the edges near your ears. You flinch once, a nick behind your neck, a drop of blood. No one apologizes. When it's done, your head feels light, vulnerable, like a drum without its skin. But it isn't finished. The mistress steps forward, charcoal in hand. She smiles like it's a game. One mark, she says, just so we don't confuse you with the others. She draws a line across your forehead, then another. A quick symbol, not a name, not a number, not anything you chose. Now we'll know who you are, she says, but you don't. Because when they hand you a basin and you look down, you see something else. A shaved skull, eyes too wide, face too thin. Not yours, someone else. Not quite a man, not quite a boy, just function. A tool that moves, lifts, carries, bleeds. The mark smudges slightly. You reach to wipe at a mistake. The steward grabs your wrist. Leave it. You nod, you stand. The breeze touches your scalp again. You feel everything. Too much. Later, someone laughs when they see you. You don't flinch. You don't answer. Because what would you say? You're not a face. You're a function. The kitchen fills with sweetness. Honey cakes, spiced wine, a lamb stew so fragrant your mouth waters before you realize. It's not for you. It's for Jupiter, for the gods, for the altar. You prepare the tray carefully. Polish the bronze. Fold the cloth just so. Arrange the figs in neat circles, the dates in pairs. You don't taste. You don't breathe too close. Your sweat isn't welcome here. The mistress oversees it all. She's fasting, but she watches every step. Don't bruise the grape, she snaps. Don't let your shadow fall over the bread. You nod. You lift the tray. It's heavy, not with weight, but with worth. Offerings must be perfect. That's the rule. You walk barefoot to the household shrine, an alcove of marble and gold. Jupiter glowers from his pedestal, eagle beside him, thunderbolt in hand. You set the tray down, kneel, wait. The master mumbles a prayer, Latin worn smooth from habit. He doesn't believe. Not really. But the ritual matters. Afterward, the food sits, unmoving, untouched. No one eats it, not even him. And when the candle burns low, when the blessing is done, you're told to throw it away. Not eat it, not share it. Just bury it, or burn it, or toss it to the dogs. Because it's sacred. Because your hands are not. You carry the tray back out, past the kitchen, past the water well. Your stomach growls. You haven't eaten since yesterday. A crust, a handful of lentils. But the honey cake crumbles in your hand, useless now, untouchable. You drop it into the waste pit. Each fig follows. The stew, still warm. It steams in the cool evening air. The scent rises. Your hunger sharpens. But you don't taste, because it's not yours. Because even leftovers from the gods are too clean for a slave. Later, when the mistress passes you in the corridor, she says, "May the gods bring us peace." You nod. Say nothing, because you serve the gods, but no one serves you. It chafes at the throat, even when the skin grows used to it, even when the neck stops bleeding, even when the world forgets it's there. He sits in the corner, back against the stable wall. The collar glints in the morning light, dull bronze scratched, too tight to slip over, too worn to shine. You've seen collars before, on dogs, on goats. This one is heavier, wider, built not to guide but to warn. You kneel beside him. He leans forward. You reach gently. His hair has knotted into the hinge strands, caught in the curve of rusted metal. You try not to tug. The engraving is still visible. I belong to Lucius. Return me if I flee. No name for him. No prayer. Just a threat. Just a brand. He exhales. Long, slow. Slept wrong, he mutters. Feels tighter today. You nod. Say nothing. You work slowly, pulling the strands free, one by one. He doesn't flinch. You ask softly, "How long have you had it?" He thinks, then shrugs. "Since I was 15, I think. Maybe younger." He chuckles once. No humor? Woke up one day and forgot what it felt like not to wear it. You find the last knot. Loosen it. He touches the rim, gently, absent-minded. It itches more when it rains, he says. Smells like coins when it gets wet. You've heard stories of collars fitted with bells, of ones sealed with molten metal, never to be removed, of runaways caught because the collar never let them move in silence. He stands, stretches, the collar shifts, catches the light. No one notices anymore. No one laughs. No one mocks. It's just there, like a shadow, like a scar. You watch him walk away, neck straight, posture practiced, the collar moving with him as if it were part of him. Because when iron stays long enough, it becomes part of you. In the dream you were free. Not rich, not grand, just walking. Barefoot on a dirt road warm underfoot. Your feet didn't ache, your back didn't burn. There was no overseer, no whip, no hurry. You carried nothing. The trees rustled in the breeze. Olive branches swayed above. You reached up, plucked a fig, ripe sweet, warm from the sun. You bit in. Juice ran down your chin. You laughed, out loud. No one told you to be quiet. Then you heard it, a voice. Clear, soft, familiar. "Come home," it said. You turned. She was standing there. Your mother. Her arms open. Her smile exactly as you remembered. Maybe gentler. You stepped toward her. And then you woke. The straw was wet beneath your cheek. Not from rain. From tears. You blinked. Slow. Afraid to move. Afraid the dream would slip too fast. The kitchen was dark, the air still, the others still asleep. You wiped your face with the edge of your blanket. Quiet. Always quiet. You sat up, touched your lips, still tasting fig, still hearing her voice. For 1 second you wanted to tell someone, but who they wouldn't understand. Or worse, they would. And that would break something. So you stood, patted down the straw, straightened the basket near your mat, walked to the water jar, and drank. You looked out the small slit of a window. No figs, no trees. Just the wall. Just the sky, gray unbothered. You never spoke of the dream. Not that day. Not the next. But it stayed. A flicker in your chest when you passed the garden. A softness in your step when no one was watching. It didn't make you slower. Didn't make you careless. You kept working. Kept answering. Kept obeying. But somewhere beneath it all, you held on. To the road, to the fruit, to the voice. You hide your hope, because even that can be taken. It starts with a slip. Just a shift in the stone underfoot. A patch of water not wiped in time. You stumble forward, the heavy jar pressed to your chest. You catch yourself, but not before the edge scrapes down your forearm. Fast, shallow, enough to bleed. You don't drop the jar. That would be worse. You brace it against the wall, breathe through your teeth, and look. A thin red line, already stinging. You have more jars to carry. The storeroom is stacked high with them, terracotta sealed with wax. Inside salt, coarse white precious, preserved from the sea. Preserves everything else, meat, fish, olives, everything but pain. You lift the next jar, muscles tight, back bent just right to avoid more bruises. The rim of the jar presses into the wound. Salt dust clings to your skin. Fine as sand, but sharper. It seeps in. The sting is immediate, bright, blinding. You don't scream. You don't flinch. You carry it down the corridor. Each step a jolt, each breath more shallow. The cook doesn't look up when you arrive, just jerks a thumb at the shelf. Next one, you nod, turn back. The cut burns now. Not just from salt, but from movement, from being ignored. You remember when salt was rare, a thing traded, in slivers measured in pinches. Now you carry it in bulk. Now it owns you. You pass another slave in the hall. He sees the blood, says nothing. Because he knows. Because he's bled too. Back in the storeroom, you wipe your hand on your tunic. Too late, the fabric's already stiff with salt and sweat. You lift again, wince. Not from weakness, from truth. Salt preserves meat, but it also reminds you you're alive. You didn't mean to. It slipped. The floor was uneven, the tray too wide, your hands too tired. It hit the edge of the table and spun once in the air, just long enough for you to hope. Then, a crack, sharp, final. The vase shattered on the stone. Not a kitchen jar, not a bath pot, an Etruscan vase, ancient, painted with horses and men in profile, imported before your time, maybe before Rome was Rome. The room went silent, the master stared, then blinked slowly. He didn't shout, not right away. He walked over, bent down, picked up a shard, turned it in his fingers, admired the paint, the curve. Then he hurled it at the wall, another, then another, until nothing remained but red dust and the echo in your ribs. You knelt, not because he asked. Because your knees gave out. He didn't beat you. Not then. He just said tie him up. 2 guards came. They didn't speak. They tied your wrist to a column in the atrium. Standing, back straight, facing the afternoon sun. You stood there for hours. The stone beneath your feet burned. The rope dug into your skin. You swayed once the steward shouted, no food, no water. Not even a glance from those passing by. Some guests came and went. They saw you. They averted their eyes. Not out of mercy, out of habit. You were part of the furniture now, part of the warning. When the sun dipped behind the roof, they untied you. No words. You walked to the well, drank in silence. Your wrist throbbed, your spine ached, your mouth dry with dust. Later you swept the shards, the ones that weren't thrown too far, carefully, slowly, as if it still mattered. You placed them in a basket. The vase was gone, but you were not. You lay down that night on your mat, arms stiff, back hot from sunburn. No one asked. No one offered bread. You didn't cry. Because what's the point? Ceramic breaks once. You break slowly. They bring him in just after sunrise. Hands bound. Dust still clinging to his sandals. You pause mid-task, halfway through sweeping the kitchen threshold, just long enough to notice he's different. Not in strength, not in size. In the eyes. He still has it, that look, alert, angry, not quite afraid yet. His lip is cracked, but he holds his chin high, too high. The steward points to the corner. He doesn't move fast enough. A slap follows. He stumbles, but doesn't break. Not yet. You watch from the shadows, broom in hand. You don't speak. None of you do. A few older slaves glance his way. Then, back down. They've seen this before. He was likely sold near the Forum, the open-air stalls with men in chains, chalk signs around their necks. Strong. Speaks some Latin. Young. Not broken. Now he's here, in the villa. Assigned to the back garden, they say, for now. You catch him that afternoon alone near the water jars. He's looking at the walls, studying them. Not the cracks, the exits. You know that look too. You wore it once. He doesn't speak to you, but he watches your face waiting for something. Approval warning. You offer neither. Just pass him a smaller jar. Easier to carry. He nods, hesitant. Mouth opens, closes again. That night he doesn't sleep. You hear him tossing, breath sharp, eyes open even in the dark. He hasn't learned how to disappear yet, how to shrink, how to wait. He will, eventually. They all do. Hope enters quietly, and usually doesn't stay. You sit by the window, not for the light, but because it's the only place they let you sew. Close enough for the mistress to check, far enough that you don't stain the cushions. The linen is stiff, coarse, unforgiving. It snags at every fold. It bites back through the needle. The thread must match perfectly. The hem must lie flat. No puckering, no wandering stitches, no excuses. The needle is old, slightly bent. Not sharp enough to glide, but still sharp enough to draw blood. You've asked for a new one. Once, they laughed. So now you push harder. Your thumb splits first, right at the pad, then your forefinger. You try to ignore it, but the linen knows. It drinks the red in fine trembling lines, like veins in marble. You wipe the needle between each pass. The blood dulls the metal. Still you keep going. The tunic is for the young master, a gift from his mother. You wonder if he'll notice the slight discoloration near the seam. You wonder if he'll care. The stitches blur when your eyes sting, not from tears, from hours, from strain. The other slaves are working the kitchen today. You hear them through the wall. Laughter once, then shouting. Then silence again. You prick your finger. Again. This one's deeper. You put the fabric down. Press a cloth to your hand. Wait. The cloth turns pink. Not too much. You can still hide it. You go back to the tunic. You don't lose your place? You never do. Because mistakes mean more work. Or no food. Or worse. You were never trained for this. You watched. You learned. Quietly, quickly. That's how you survive. Later, the mistress takes the tunic, runs her hand across the hem, eyes narrow, then relax. Good, she says. Not to you, to herself. You bow, step back. She doesn't ask about your hands. You wash them in cold water. The sting is sharp. The blood runs down the drain like ink. The fabric is white. But your hands are red. It starts with a laugh. Not yours. His, the young master. Barely 15, full of wine and boredom, and holding a candle. You're standing by the door tray in hand, waiting for the next command. Come here, he says. Eyes sparkling, smile wide. You step forward, breathe slow, don't tremble. He lifts the candle, lets the flame dance near your face. Then tilts it, just slightly. The wax drips, first onto the floor, then onto your hand. Hot, sharp, clinging. It burns fast, then hardens. He laughs harder. So do his friends, the other boys from noble houses, drunk on wine and power they didn't earn. You smile. Not because it's funny, because it's safer. He leans in. You didn't flinch. You smile wider. You say nothing. Another drop, right on the wrist this time. You bite your cheek. The pain is blinding, but your face doesn't change. He nods in approval. Good. Maybe you'll teach the others. They move on to the next joke, a game involving olives and a bored dog. You return to the corner, hand tucked behind your back. No one notices the wax hardening across your skin. No one smells the faint scorch or sees the red rise beneath it. Later in the dark corridor, you peel it off slowly. The skin beneath is blistered, raw, angry. But the mistress is having guests tomorrow, and you still have to carry water. The bucket presses against the burn. Every step sends a jolt up your arm. You say nothing. You pour without spilling. You nod when spoken to. You smile again when he walks past you. Because that's the game. And you learned early, if they find pleasure in your pain, you give it freely, with a bow, with a grin, with silence. That night you lie on your mat, hand stiff, wrapped in a dirty cloth. You press it to your chest and breathe through the pulse. Outside, someone is still laughing. Pain becomes entertainment, as long as it isn't theirs. You just finished cleaning the courtyard. The tiles were scrubbed, the dust swept the steps, wiped smooth. You were proud, not out loud, just silently, in the way your shoulders relaxed for the first time that day. Then the wind changed. A sharp gust from the east, not enough to break branches, but enough to lift the ash from the outdoor kitchen. It spun in lazy spirals, gray and light, as breath before falling. Onto the floor, onto the stone, onto everything, and onto you. You blink. Too late, your eyes sting. Your mouth tastes of smoke. You rub your face with your sleeve. It only spreads the grit. Across the courtyard, the overseer shouts, "What are you standing for?" You turn. Point to the ash. He waves you off. Then clean it again. So you do. You start from the far end, same as always. This time it's harder. The ash clings differently. It sticks to damp cloth, smears across polished tile. You scrub harder, which kicks more into the air. Your nose itches. You sniffle. The sweat on your brow turns gray. No one helps. One of the kitchen girls walks past, laughing to someone. She doesn't look at you. Your hands ache. Again. Still. By the time you finish the second round, the wind picks up again. Another gust, another fall. You don't stop. You don't scream. You just wipe, over and over, until your arms go numb. By the end, your tunic is streaked with soot. Your lips are cracked. Your back screams. And the steward appears, not to praise, not to check, just to say, "You're slow today." You nod. He walks off. You sit on the lowest step for just 1 second, one breath, but the ash stirs again, and you rise. Even the wind works against you. It's an old blade, blackened near the hilt, slightly chipped along the edge. The kind used to slice meat, open olives, cut ropes, or worse. The master hands it to you without a word. You know what he wants. He doesn't need to say it. You fetch the whetstone. Sit in the corner of the kitchen courtyard, back to the wall, knees drawn up, elbows tight. The knife rests across your palms. You study it for a moment. The way it reflects the sky in dull shimmer. The way it holds weight even when still. Then you begin, stone to steel, pull, pull, again. The sound is soft, not like metal clashing, more like whispering, like secrets being shaved into shape. You keep the angle just right. Too shallow and it won't bite. Too steep and it snaps. You've learned. By watching, by bleeding. Your fingers are calloused now, but the fear that's still sharp. Because this isn't just a tool. It's a reminder. You've seen this knife before. Held by the cook, held by the master. Held against someone's throat, once not yours, but close enough. So you grind with care. Not for beauty, not for pride. For survival. The edge begins to shine. Fine as light. Cruel as command. You pause. Wipe the blade. Test it against your thumb. Just barely. It catches. Perfect. You hold it up. It mirrors your face, or something like your face. Thin. Tired. Not quite you anymore. You turn the blade over, hand it back. The master doesn't thank you. He never does. Just weighs it, approves, walks away. You exhale. The whetstone rests on your lap, dark with water and filings. You place it down gently, rinse your hands, watch the metal dust swirl away. But the tension stays, because the knife is ready now, and no one knows what for. You sharpen steel and swallow fear. He died in the night. No scream, no final gasp, just silence. You noticed it in the morning when the usual cough from his corner didn't come. You didn't touch him. You didn't have to. One glance at the way his chest no longer rose, the way his hands had gone still open, facing upward like waiting for something that never arrived. No one stopped the morning tasks. Bread still had to be baked. Water still had to be fetched. The courtyard still needed sweeping. Someone whispered his name, once, soft, unsure. Then no one said it again. By midday, 2 men came with a sack. Not a shroud, just a coarse brown sack. They rolled him gently, but quickly, wrapped the cloth around his body, tied it with rope like a bundle of kindling. No prayers, no incense, no coin for Karen, not even a nod from the steward. They carried him out the back gate, past the olive press, behind the stables. You followed at a distance, not asked, not forbidden. The ground was already broken, not deep, just enough to keep the dogs away. They placed him down, covered him in dirt. No marker, no stone, just a mound of earth flattened by a few stomps of a sandal. Then they left. The wind picked up. The dust turned in the air. You waited until no one was watching. You stepped closer, kneeled, placed your hand on your chest, and whispered a sentence in your mother's tongue. Something soft, something only you would understand. It wasn't magic. It wasn't sacred. It was just memory, spoken aloud before silence took that too. You didn't cry. You'd learned not to, but your throat burned, and your fingers curled in the dirt like they wanted to hold something that was already gone. You sat there for one breath, maybe two, then stood, brushed the soil from your knees, turned back toward the villa. There were dishes waiting, orders coming, another day beginning. They're gone. You stay, for now. It's midday. The air hangs heavy, buzzing with cicadas, thick with heat. You're sent to the garden to carry compost from the kitchen, but the path cuts past the olive grove, and the overseer is inside, arguing again with the cook. So for just a moment, you pause. Beneath the olive tree, its shadow stretches long over the stone path, broken by slivers of gold where the sun filters through. You lean against the trunk, rough bark against your back, cooler than expected. You close your eyes, breathe, in, out. The first time today you've done that without hurrying. A breeze rises soft, unexpected. It brushes your cheek, lifts the corner of your tunic, carries with it the scent of crushed herbs and dry dust. Then a sound, small, clean, a soft thump in the dirt. You open your eyes. A single olive, ripe, dark purple, lies just a few feet away. It rolled from the branch above, fell, without witness, except you. You stare at it. Your stomach tightens. You haven't eaten since dawn. You step forward, kneel, reach out, then stop. Not because anyone sees you, not because of fear, but because it feels wrong. Not dangerous, just borrowed. Like this moment, like the shade, like the air itself. You let your hand drop. The olive rests there, gathering dust in the dirt, never knowing how close it came to meaning something more. You sit for a second longer. Look up. The sun filters through the leaves, tiny flames flickering in the green. It's beautiful. No one will ever paint this. No poet will write of it. It will pass unnoticed, unrecorded. But you'll remember. You'll tuck it away like a smooth stone in your palm. Not for comfort, for proof that it happened, that you were still once. Here. You hear footsteps in the hall. A door slams. It's time. You stand. Brush the dust from your knees. Leave the olive where it lies. Even stillness feels borrowed. The fire is low. More ember than flame, more memory than heat. You sit near it, not for warmth, but for the hush it brings. The others are sleeping, some snoring, some twitching through restless dreams. But you sit. Back against the stone hands cupped around your knees. Outside, the wind slides through the wooden beams, thin and steady, a breath you almost recognize. You stare into the glow. The last chunk of wood crackles, then crumbles. A slow fall of orange into gray. And in that quiet, something stirs. Not in the room, in you. A scent, grain, wet grass, smoke from a cooking fire not your own. A voice, faint, gentle, singing something you once knew. Your mother, or maybe someone else. The memory's frayed now, edges worn from years of trying not to need it. But for a moment, you're there, in a field, bare feet in dirt, sun low and kind. The air smells like wheat and baking and peace. You can't see your home, not clearly, just the shape of it. Mud walls, a crooked door, someone waving you in. You blink. The fire is almost gone. You shift. The floor beneath you is hard. Your hands are cold. Rome surrounds you again. Stone command, silence. You close your eyes, not to sleep, just to stay in the field a moment longer. Because here, there is no name for you, only the you that was. Before this place, before the chains, before you forgot what your own voice sounded like when it wasn't obeying. You press your palm to your chest, just to feel it, still beating, still there. You breathe in, ash, dust, and something sweeter, but only in your head. You dream not of Rome, but of before. Outside the fire sighs, and so do you. They wake you early. Before the sun rises, Before the birds sing, you're told to wash. Not fully, just enough to look presentable. A rag, a splash, a brush of fingers through your hair. No time for anything more. Then they bring the chain. Thick, rusty, familiar. You know its weight, the sound it makes when it drags over stone, how it bites into ankles if you don't walk in rhythm. They fasten you to 4 others, 2 men, 1 woman, and a boy barely old enough to carry firewood. You don't know their names. No one asks. You're marched through the villa gate, past the olive trees, into the city. The streets are waking up, vendors sweeping, citizens stretching, dogs sniffing trash bins. And then they see you. A few turn their heads. Most don't. You're not new, not strange, just more meat on the market line. At the forum, they stop. The steward shouts orders. You're lined up back, straight eyes down. Some are for sale. Some, like you, are for daily hire. Cheap labor, temporary pain. You're not being sold. Not yet. But you stand beside those who are. And that's close enough. The buyers come, men in fine tunics, women with silk veils, a soldier, a baker, a priest. They prod, they press, they pull your arms up to test the joints, check your teeth, inspect the skin behind your ears, strong one says, quiet says another. You say nothing. A woman cries, 2 people down. She clutches her daughter's hand. A man shakes his head, wants the child, not the mother. Voices rise. The girl screams, the mother sobs. The chain snaps tight as she resists, but it doesn't matter. She's dragged off, the girl too, separately. You stare ahead. Don't blink, don't speak. Someone points at you. The steward shakes his head. Not for sale today. Relief maybe. But your heart doesn't settle. Because you've seen how quickly not today becomes a get in the cart. They finish by noon. You're unchained, but not free. March back. Feet sore, wrists rubbed raw. No one speaks on the walk home. The chain leaves a phantom weight on your skin, on your thoughts. You weren't sold today. But next week, who knows? The chain is gone, but the weight still hums in your bones. It happens over something small. A request, a phrase you've said 100 times. You repeat it, as always, but this time the vowel slips. The consonant catches in your throat the Gaulish way. The master's brow twitches. What did you say? You freeze. Repeat it again slower. Try to round the syllables the Roman way. He frowns harder, walks closer. Then, a slap. Not hard enough to knock you down. Just hard enough to make the room tilt for a second. To make your lip split. Stupid barbarian, he mutters. Even a dog can learn commands. You bow your head. Mumble the phrase again this time. Flatter, more careful. He waves you away. But the shame doesn't leave with you. It hangs on your tongue. Dry. Hot. You spoke 3 languages once, your mother's words, soft round vowels, and lullabies. The trader's tongue, fast sharp, learned in markets and ports. And now Latin, clumsy in your mouth, a language you learned by watching punishment follow mistakes. You used to be proud of knowing more than most, of hearing people from 5 towns away and naming their village by the way they said bread. Now you keep your sentences short, swallow your R's. Don't say yes too loudly. It sounds too much like home. Another slave once whispered, they want your body, not your mind. The mind just gets in the way. He's gone now, sold, maybe worse. But the words stayed. So you talk less, you nod, gesture, wait to be spoken to. And when you speak like them. Almost. Not enough to be Roman. Never that. Just enough to avoid another slap. Just enough to pass. Your voice no longer belongs to you. It belongs to survival. You still whisper your mother's tongue at night. Sometimes. When no one's listening. But even then, you catch yourself. Because your tongue betrays your homeland. So you make it smaller. Your tongue sleeps curled against your teeth, quiet as a folded note. The rain begins at dusk. First a whisper against the tile roof. Then harder. Then endless. You glance toward the sky through the open slats. No stars, only black. The fire's gone out. No time to relight it, no dry kindling, and no one cares enough to ask. You crouch in the corner of the servants' room. The leak started 2 nights ago. Today, it's worse. Drips fall through the ceiling like slow needles. Onto the floor, onto your mat, onto your blanket which wasn't warm to begin with. You gather the straw, try to push it toward the drier wall. But even the drier parts are damp now. You curl in on yourself, knees to chest, back to stone. Your tunic sticks to your skin, wet, cold, unforgiving. You press your hands to your ribs. They tremble. Not from fear this time, just cold. You try to sleep, but the ache in your bones won't let you. Neither will the dripping, or the shivering, or the hunger. Through the thin wall, you hear laughter. The master's family is still awake. They're drinking. You can smell the wine, the roast meat, the cloves in their evening stew. Warm light spills through the doorway cracks, golden, soft, completely unreachable. You picture the carpets inside, thick and woolen, the cushions near the brazier, the stew ladled into glazed bowls. You close your eyes and imagine the heat. It doesn't help. The wind slides through the stones, finds your skin, settles there. Someone nearby coughs, a wet rasping sound. It doesn't stop. No one moves. You turn your face to the wall, press your fingers tighter to your arms as if you could trap whatever warmth remains. Your teeth chatter. Your breath fogs. You're not sure when sleep comes, if it comes. You don't dream. Not in this kind of cold. You're cold. You're wet. And morning still comes. Somewhere beyond the walls, a bird sings. You don't answer. It happens at breakfast, if you can call it that. Stale bread. Hard as brick. 3 days old, maybe more. You've learned to soak it in water when you can. Today there was no time. No water. You bite. Hear it before you feel it. A crack. Then lightning in your jaw. You freeze. Tongue searches. Finds it. A jagged edge where a tooth used to be whole. You spit. A crumb. A sliver of rock. And a white shard flecked with blood. No one notices. No one stops. You pocket the fragment. Not sure why. Maybe because it proves something happened. That you didn't imagine it. Pain blooms slowly. Then grows sharp with every word, every breath. You keep working. You scrub pots. You carry buckets. You answer when spoken to, though now with lips half closed. By midday, the ache pulses in your head, your ear, your temple. But there's no pause, no poultice, no, are you all right, just faster, lower, again. At the water jar, another slave, older, slower, watches you. He sees the way you hold your jaw, sees the tight breath. Broke one. You nod. He shrugs. Use the other side. You'll get used to it. Then he walks off, like it's nothing, because to him, it is. You try later. Eat a strip of fig skin with the opposite molar. It works mostly. The pain's still there, but duller now. Predictable. You count that as a win. By nightfall, your face is swollen, but you smile at the mistress anyway, because she expects it, because pain doesn't matter if it's not hers. You lie down on your mat, sideways, careful. The broken edge scrapes your tongue, a reminder. Your body is always finding new ways to hurt, and new ways to continue. You adapt, because the Empire doesn't. In the quiet, your jaw pulses like a forgotten drum. They tell you the night before, a guest is coming, important. You know what that means. No extra food, no extra pay, just more work. You start before sunrise, polish the walls, yes, the walls, because the guest might notice the reflection of his own importance. And it must not be dulled. You sweep the courtyard twice. Then again, after the wind kicks up. You trim the olive branches in the vases. Rearrange them 3 times because the mistress doesn't like asymmetry. You fold napkins, not like rags, like birds or fans. No one taught you. You just copied what the steward once did before a senator's visit. You shine the bronze tray until it blinds you in the sun. Place grapes just so. Fig halves fanned beside honeycomb. You aren't fed, but you're asked to describe the food as you carry it. Tell him what's in the sauce, the cook whispers. You memorize the words. Say them like you mean them. The guest arrives by noon. A fine cloak, gold trim. He smells like imported oil and too much confidence. He doesn't look at you. He does notice the columns, the folded napkins. This house has taste, he says. Everyone smiles. No one says your name. No one says any name. You stand by the doorway, just behind the curtain, ready if someone drops a cup, or spills wine, or wants more olives. You listen. They toast to power, to conquest, to culture. Their voices loud, echoing. Like a play where you're not cast. You barely breathe. You've been told too many times you're too loud just standing there. So you fold yourself smaller. Tuck your hands behind your back. Sink into the shadow. You feel the heat of the fire from a room you'll never sit in. Smell the roast meat you'll only carry. You smile, reflex only. And when the guest compliments the sauce, you want to whisper, "It's cinnamon and garlic." The cook added vinegar. I helped crush the herbs. But you don't. You never do. Later, when the guests leave, you scrub the floor again. Carry away the half-eaten dates. Fold the stained napkins back into rags. No one says thank you. They never do. They toast. You breathe softly and hope no one notices you. In the next room, laughter fades like smoke. You lie down, not because you're ready, because there's nothing left to do. The mat is thin. The straw beneath it smells like old rain. Your back aches in places you've forgotten how to name. You close your eyes, but your mind keeps going. You replay the orders, the footsteps, the stings of heat and cold, the moment you almost drop the tray, the crack of someone else being punished for something you did yesterday. You don't cry. Not tonight. You're too tired even for that. Around you, others settle in. Some whisper, some snore. A baby somewhere in the far corner whimpers in sleep. His mother shushes him with the gentlest sound you've heard all day. Outside, the guards pace. Their sandals slap in rhythm, a dull reminder that even now you are not alone and never free. The room darkens slowly. The oil lamp in the hallway is snuffed. Silence deepens. Only the night remains, and the small things it carries. The chirp of insects, the distant creak of a shutter, the hush of someone shifting beside you, your own breath, still here, still going. No one died today, at least not that you saw. No one was sold, no one escaped. It was a day, that's all. But somehow, that's everything. You curl tighter. Let your fingers rest against your ribs. Count your own heartbeats just to remind yourself it's there. You wonder how many days you've done this. You wonder how many more, but only for a second. Then you let the thought fall away. Because this is what remains, not freedom, not peace, not dreams, just survival. And maybe, just maybe that's enough. You live today. You'll repeat tomorrow, if you're lucky. Somewhere nearby, a night insect clicks the sound small but real. You've heard it before. You've read it in books, seen it, whispered between scenes in polished historical dramas. Their slaves were treated like family, as if that softens the chain, as if sharing a roof makes the collar less tight. You may sleep in the same house, eat the scraps from the same kitchen, watch the same fire burn from opposite sides of the room. But you're not family, you're property. You are dressed when they need you to serve. You are stripped when they need to punish. You are silent when they need peace. You are present when they need power. A favored slave might be allowed to sit near the table, might be given better rations, might be trusted with secrets. But none of that changes what you are. You can be praised one day and sold the next. You can raise their child, rock them to sleep, sing them songs in your mother tongue, only to be beaten in front of them when they repeat your words aloud. The whip doesn't care that you were gentle. The law doesn't care that you were loyal. And the so-called kindness of a master is always conditional. You are loved if obedient. You are tolerated if quiet. You are seen if useful. The moment you ask for more rest, more food, more dignity, that family bond dissolves. What remains is ownership, legal, total, unbreakable without permission. Even masters who claimed to care kept ledgers, recorded your age, your price, your injuries. They could lend you out trade, tie you to another household through forced marriage, like passing around cutlery. Would you say a dog is family because it sits under the table? Would you say a hammer is family because it builds your walls? Then why say it of someone who had no choice but to stay? True family cannot be sold. True family doesn't flinch when a neighbor admires your strong shoulders and offers money. The illusion of affection is the most sophisticated shackle of all. It teaches you not to run, not through fear, but through guilt. It whispers, you're lucky. You're one of the good ones. You're not like the others. And so you stay. Even when your back aches, even when your name is forgotten, even when your child is taken, because they smiled at you, because they called you dear. But love doesn't come with shackles. Ownership does. You've heard the argument. The slaves were fed. They were given shelter. Some even lived better than the poor. As if a crust of bread and a corner of straw make the chain more humane. As if survival is generosity when it's offered only to fuel more labor. Yes, you were fed. Sometimes. Just enough. Not out of care, but out of calculation. You don't starve a plow horse. You don't dull a blade you plan to use. The food wasn't a gift. It was maintenance, fuel, the bare minimum to keep your hands from trembling as you carried someone else's silver. And the roof. It wasn't home. It was containment. A slave's room might be in the villa, tucked behind the kitchen or under the stairs or outside in a shed. With no door, just enough wall to block the wind. You didn't get to choose where you slept, or who slept beside you, or how long the light stayed on. You didn't even get to choose when to sleep. You could be shaken awake at midnight to relight a lamp to fetch water, to calm a child that wasn't yours, but still held power over your life. You didn't dream in those rooms. You waited. For footsteps. For commands. For dawn. So when people say they were cared for, what they mean is they were preserved. Like tools, like livestock, like clay jars kept from cracking just long enough to be useful again tomorrow. The free poor, yes, they suffered too. They went hungry, they slept in alleys, but they were not owned. They could leave, beg, roam, speak their name aloud without permission. You could do none of that. Your bowl of porridge came with silence. Your cot came with obedience. You were given just enough to keep you moving, and nothing more. No rest, no future, no voice. And if you fell sick, if your back gave out, you weren't sent to heal. You were replaced, or punished for the inconvenience of being human. So no being fed doesn't mean being free. And a roof overhead is not the same as safety. A bed is not comfort if it's your cage. Shelter means nothing when the door only locks from the outside. It's the line that history likes to offer as comfort. They could be freed, as long as they were loyal, as long as they earned it, as if freedom was a prize for good behavior, as if the cage was fair because it had a key. Yes, manumission existed. Some slaves were granted liberty, but not many, and never easily, and never truly. To earn freedom you had to survive first, for years, decades, without offending, without speaking too much, without breaking. You had to be useful but not threatening, grateful but invisible, strong but submissive. You might be freed in your old age when your body could no longer serve, a mercy they called it, or you might buy your freedom with money scraped from scraps, tips, bribes, or side work done in secret. But even then the price was set by your owner. And it could change, at whim, at insult, at suspicion. And, if you managed it, if you were granted manumission, you became a freedman. Not a citizen, not an equal. You had no noble name. You carried your master's name, instead a reminder of who once owned you, and who still could command your loyalty. You couldn't marry into the upper classes. You couldn't vote freely. You could be re-enslaved if you displeased the wrong person. Even your children born free would grow up with the mark of your past. Society didn't forget. It watched. And when they saw you, they didn't see freedom. They saw a slave who got lucky. So no manumission wasn't salvation. It was a door cracked open just wide enough to keep you hopeful and waiting. Because when freedom is something that must be granted, it is no longer freedom. It is permission, a leash, a lure, a story told to keep the others quiet. You want to believe you'll be one of the few, that if you obey long enough, serve well enough, endure long enough, you'll be chosen. But choice is the point, and it was never yours. Freedom isn't freedom when someone else decides if you deserve it. They show you the Colosseum, majestic, perfectly arched, a triumph of engineering. They speak of aqueducts, temples, baths that flowed with warm water, fountains that sparkled in marble courtyards. They speak of genius, of Rome's greatness, of vision. But they forget the hands, the cracked ones, the bleeding ones, the ones that lifted each stone, carried it, carved it, laid it into place. Slaves built Rome, not metaphorically, literally. The Colosseum rose from slave labor not just through construction, but through death. It was slaves who fought there, who died there, who cleaned the blood from the sand so nobles could sip wine between executions. The aqueducts, yes, brilliant, but the tunnels dark, wet, collapsing. Men dug until their lungs filled with dust and their limbs gave out. No monument bears their names. Rome's theaters echoed with music, but the instruments were tuned by slaves, the costumes sewn by tired fingers. The applause always came from the front rows, never from the wings. Even the Roman army, so often idolized, marched on roads paved by enslaved bodies. supplied by enslaved farmers, fed cleaned, and praised by those who could never wear a uniform unless it was shackled. And the festivals, oh the festivals, Saturnalia, Lupercalia, days of wild celebration, masks, wine laughter. But someone lit the torches, someone picked the grapes, someone scrubbed the vomit when it was over, and they never joined the song. Rome's glory came at a cost, and the cost was never paid by those whose statues remain. It was paid by the silent, the nameless, the forgotten. Men, women, children, whose backs bent under marble, whose skins split on rough rope, whose days blurred into labor, whose nights brought no relief. You won't find their names in the books, but you'll see their work in every stone. Feel it in the shadow of every monument. Hear it in the echo of every triumph. Because this empire, this eternal city, wasn't built on genius alone. It was built on people, on pain, on lives that were never meant to be remembered. But you remember. You hear them. You see what history refused to write. And you know glory shines brightest when you forget who held the torch. Not everyone survived. You know that now. Not every slave made it to old age. Not every scar healed. Not every voice was heard. Most of them, the ones who scrubbed the baths, who carried amphorae through blistering heat, who slept on wet straw and woke to whips, never made it into the scrolls. No statues, no coins, no poetry carved in their name. History wrote about generals, senators, emperors, not the girl who poured their wine, not the boy who lit their lamps. But tonight you remembered them. You stepped into their day, walked their aching footsteps, felt their hunger, smelled their sweat. You didn't read about them from a distance. You became them, for a while, long enough to understand. That's not nothing. It's not resurrection. It's not justice, not really. But it's something, because memory is a form of justice. And silence, especially, historical silence, is a kind of death all its own. To speak their routine is to interrupt that silence. To imagine their pain is to refuse the lie that Rome was only marble and glory. You've met them now, the cook's helper, the boy who sharpened the knife, the girl with the broken tooth, the mother who kept singing, the old man who collapsed and wasn't named again. You've sat beside them in the dirt, heard their thoughts, felt their bones ache, and in doing that, you did something Rome never wanted. You made them visible, even if just for a night, even if just in your mind. That matters. Because history isn't just the loudest voice. It isn't just the conqueror's scroll. It's the quiet plate, washed 1,000 times. The floor scrubbed until fingers bled. The breath held every time footsteps passed too close. History is the accumulation of labor, of sweat, of silence. And now you've borne witness. You've walked through 35,000 words, not about kings or emperors, but about someone no one was supposed to remember. And yet, here they are. Here you are, and here they'll stay. Because you can't undo what they lived through, but you can refuse to forget it. The day ends, and you're still here, not sold, not dragged by your ankles to the market, not thrown into the pit for losing a cup or speaking too loud. You weren't beaten today. You weren't branded. No one bled on you, and no one you knew died. That counts as a good day, doesn't it? It must, because what else is there? You still hurt. Your knees, your back, your jaw from grinding your teeth when they shouted. Your ribs from that cough that won't leave. You're still hungry. Not starving, just that hollow kind of hunger that becomes part of you. Like an extra lung, always pulling at your attention. You're still scared. Because rest doesn't mean safe. Because orders come, even in the dark. Because you never know what someone else's mood might cost you tomorrow. But you're not dead. And that's something. You curl into your spot, your corner of straw, your folded cloth, your little pattern scratched into the dirt where your feet always lie. You listen. The house has settled. No footsteps, no commands. Just the occasional cough, the breath of others asleep, the creak of ropes above you. You inhale, slow, shaky. You don't feel strong. You don't feel brave. You feel here. That's it. Still breathing, still aching, still bound to a tomorrow that promises more of the same. The same orders, the same weight, the same name you no longer use because no one ever asked for it. But tomorrow hasn't come yet. And right now, in this stillness, this dark, you exist. Not as property, not as a tool, not even as a servant. Just as something alive. It's not enough. It's not fair. It's not freedom. But it's not nothing, because you endured one more sunrise, one more task, one more insult you didn't deserve, and silence you didn't ask for. Survival isn't victory, but it's something. They never called you by name, not once, not properly, not in the way that makes a person feel real. You were boy, girl, you, that one, faster, slower, useless. You were it when they were angry. You there when they needed something. Sometimes just a snap of fingers, a gesture in the air. And at first, you still remembered. Your name, the sound of it, how it rolled in your mother's voice, how it looked scratched into the side of a wooden toy long gone now. You whispered it to yourself at night, tried to keep it safe like a coal under ash. But years passed. No one else said it, no one else knew it, and you began to forget. First the edges, then the middle, then the way it made you feel when you heard it. Your name became fog, an echo, a thing that used to belong to you. They erased more than your freedom. They erased the story you came with, the place you were born, the day you were born. The people who knew your laugh before you learned silence. There are no records, no birthday, no festival where someone lights a lamp just for you, and so you disappear without vanishing. You walk, you serve, you survive, but you're never truly seen, because without a name, you become function. Flesh, obedience. Even when you speak, the words don't come from you, they come from need, from fear, from the expectation that you do not matter unless you are useful. And yet sometimes you still feel it, that flicker, that moment when someone brushes too close, when a sound in the night reminds you of something soft, when you dream and someone calls out and for a second you think it's your name. You wake up reaching for it, mouth open, but nothing comes out, because you don't know what to say. You were someone, once, somewhere, and they took that from you. It's okay. You can breathe now. You're not in Rome, not anymore. There's no chain around your ankle, no shouted order from the next room, no sharp-eyed steward watching from the shadows, just the hush of your own space, a ceiling that doesn't drip, sheets that are soft or at least not made of straw. The floor doesn't sting with cold. The air doesn't smell like ash or waste or fear. You're not waiting for footsteps or a cane or a reason to flinch. No one will drag you up before sunrise. No one will pull you from sleep to trim branches or stir coals or carry someone else's shame. You can close your eyes here without consequence. The voice in your head is yours again. It doesn't tremble. It doesn't apologize for existing. You might still feel the weight of the story, the dust of that day clinging to your skin, the echo of footsteps in the back of your mind. But let them fade. They don't belong to you. Not now. The collar is gone. The whip is gone. You're not in chains anymore. You're in a bed. Maybe it creaks. Maybe it's a little too warm, or not warm enough. But it's yours. No one will sell you in the morning. No one will rename you before lunch. You are not a possession. You are not a tool. You are a person. Here, now. Free. Let your shoulders sink. Let your jaw unclench. Let your breath slow. You're not there anymore. Feel it now. The quiet. The stillness, the softness beneath you, sheets that don't itch. No straw poking your back, no stone beneath your shoulder blades, just fabric, clean, cool, folded where you placed it, yours. The hum you hear, it's not footsteps, it's the fan, a low, steady rhythm, like distant waves or wind in the leaves. It doesn't mean danger, it means calm. The room smells like detergent, maybe lavender, maybe nothing at all, just clean. No smoke, no sweat, no wet rope. Just the light scent of cloth, dried in the sun, of a shirt you forgot to fold, of peace. Your breathing has slowed. You didn't notice it happen. But here it is, in and out. Your hands aren't clenched. Your jaw has softened. No one's watching you. No one's listening for a mistake. No one's standing behind a door with orders in their mouth and a cane in their hand. You can stay just like this, still, heavy, safe. You won't be shaken awake. No whistle will blow. No child will tug your sleeve and demand a song you never chose to learn. The only sound that matters now is your breath, in and out. You are not on the stone floor of a Roman villa. You are not a shadow in someone else's house. You are not a name forgotten, a voice silenced today, erased. You are here, now. And no one owns your tomorrow. No more ash, no more orders, just rest. Let your spine sink. Let the pillow cradle the back of your head. Let the warmth of the blanket press gently over your chest. The world outside can wait, because tonight you are not surviving. You are sleeping. You are safe. You are home. Sleep now. Not just because it's late, not because you're tired, though you are, but because you've earned it. Not in the way they made slaves earn rest through obedience, through exhaustion, through silence. You've earned it by walking with them, by seeing what they lived through, by listening, by staying, word after word, breath after breath. You made it to the end of their day and yours. You didn't turn away when it got heavy. You didn't flinch when it got close. You followed them into the kitchens, the latrines, the punishment rooms, the garden. They couldn't sit in the cot. They could never call their own. And you made it out. You're here. Still. Breathing slower now, heavier now. And they never had this. They never had stillness, or safety, or softness. They never had someone whisper you did enough. You can rest now, so sleep. For them. Sleep for the girl who scrubbed blood from tunics with her hands cracked and raw. Sleep for the boy who was beaten for making a child laugh the wrong way. Sleep for the woman who never got to scream out loud without consequence. Sleep for the old man whose back broke in the field and who was dragged away without a name. Sleep for the thousands whose stories were never told, whose names were never written, whose dreams were never safe to speak. You carried them for a while tonight. You wore their chains in silence. You walked barefoot through their world, but you're not there anymore. You're clean, you're warm, you're free. So close your eyes. Let your body grow heavier. Let your thoughts drift like leaves in water. There's nothing else to do. No one else to serve. No one calling your name or forgetting it. Just stillness and breath. And the quiet knowing that you remembered them. That even for one night they were seen. Sleep for them. Sleep for you.